In its most basic terminology, you've got to be in the right place at the right time to make the right decision. In the right place, at the right time to make the right decision. Unfortunately, how often does that happen? When I go out to see some of these more inexperienced umpires, but experienced players, you know, I'm talking about some AHL players, Australian players that I talked to last season, and their positioning was terrible. They were umpiring from the sideline all the time, so I got a chance to talk to them about getting around the back line. The most important area on a hockey field is the circle, and you've got to be able to see what's going on. Here's the back line, there's the circle, there's the goal. From here, I can see everything that's going on there in the circle, the most important area. The ball's going to be moving, players are going to be moving, so I'm not going to stay glued to the ground, but usually that's all it takes. Just one half a step backwards, out to the side, there, and you'll always be able to see the ball. And we go back to this, always able to see the ball. And we go back to the fact that there's two of you out there. In a perfect game, in a perfect umpiring situation, at all times, at least one umpire will be able to see the ball. And in Div 1 games now, where we've got people wired up, it's easy to transmit decisions and discuss what's happening. It's not so easy when you're not wired up, but last year it was introduced for the first time last year, and I'm sure that people like Amy will say what a great innovation it was and how helpful she found it. Your objective at every level of the game is for the two of you to be able to see the ball all the time. That doesn't mean that two of you will be able to see the ball all the time, but one of you. And the one that can't see it, if she needs help from her colleague, then stop the game and talk about it and explain what's happening. Because we're wired up now on the top games, we don't need to stop the game as much because we can just talk to each other and say there was a foot there. So positioning, particularly getting to the back line and getting to the near post, so crucial. Positioning of an umpire is dictated to by this J curve, okay, where you do move down the sideline. You move around and curve until you get to that near post on the back line. It's called a J curve. And if you think about it in those terms, it becomes a lot easier. Those really experienced players that I thought would know better last year when they did umpire games were just using the stick, the handle, not thinking about the curve of the ball. So they're just running up and down. And then when I got the chance to talk to them midway through the game, and they adapted, without exception, each one of them said, "Don't know why I didn't do that before." Right? Because it then became easy. So positioning, important. Continuous movement. Never stay glued to the ground. Keep on the move. If you're in the right position at the right time, you will come to the right decision. And all of this is so closely linked. If you're making the right decision, you will have the respect of the players and everything, your game management and everything else will be so much easier for you. I just talked about the radios that we use now. But without those radios, for years and years without the radios, we've used eye contact, okay, so that we can talk to each other. I might be 50 metres away from Noreen over there, right, but I can still communicate without yelling to her, because obviously you can't do that over 50 metres, but you can establish eye contact. You can give little signals to each other. It's really important, and unfortunately we don't get a lot of opportunity to do this the way the games are managed at the moment, but umpire discussions before a game are so important. And at the higher levels of the game, umpires will get together and sit together for an hour, sometimes even longer, and go through all the various scenarios that might present themselves during the game and discuss how they're going to handle those scenarios. The big problem we've got in our fixtures is that quite often a player will come off a game and she's expected to umpire almost straight away, or vice versa. So there's no chance to talk. There's no chance to talk. And these pre-match discussions are so important, as are the post-match discussions also. But most times we don't even have time to organise those either, because one of the umpires is dashing off to play in another game somewhere, or even dashing across to another centre. Communicating to the players all the time doesn't just have to be vocal. All right, use the full range of explanatory signals. And I think we're pretty good at that now. That on every big decision, I should see an explanatory signal, because I want to know why you're giving that penalty corner. I want to know why you're giving that stroke. I was at a major tournament once, and I'm sitting there in a specially allocated seat. A penalty corner was given, and the president of the FIH got up from her seat, about 3 seats away, and came over to me and said, "What was that penalty corner for, Jan?" And I said, "I don't have a clue." And I've told that story so many times. And I'd say, if I'm ever asked why you've given a penalty corner and I have to say I don't have a clue, I said, you're for the chop. That could be your last game. That could be your last tournament. I want to know why you've given every major decision. The real benefit of that, of course, is it makes them think before they give the big decisions. The best thing that ever happened to umpiring was the use of video analysis. Because before we had video analysis, umpires literally could do what they want out there. I'm talking about the top level. They could do what they wanted. And most of them have been around for so long that, you know, they God's gift to umpiring. And then when we started looking at the videos and saying, what's that stroke for? No longer could they just give some vague reasoning as to why that stroke was given. They had to be totally accurate. And within about 2 seasons of the introduction of video umpiring, we just about cleaned out 3/4 of the umpiring ranks at that particular time and brought in a lot of younger umpires who were much more prepared to focus on what the expectations of modern umpiring were all about. The more you think as umpires about why you're blowing your whistle and why you're making that decision, the better you will be. It will eradicate a lot of the wrong decisions, and it will increase the respect, the empathy that you should be trying to develop with the players.